Welcome everyone. I hope you had a nice lunch, and it's my pleasure to introduce to you Pierre Rossi, with some experience of at least 2 years in Qt WebKit, and today he will talk about the probably successor to it, Qt Web Engine. Please, welcome.
Thanks. Thank you. Hi everyone. So this is a talk about Qt Web Engine. If you haven't heard about it and you want to know more about it, then you're in the right spot. If not, you still have time to run to another room, but I think you should stay. It's going to be a very high-level overview of what we've done and where we're going. So first of all, I should probably introduce myself. My name is Pierre Rossi, as Millian said. I'm French originally. I'm based in Oslo. I joined Nokia in 2009, January 2009. Worked in support for a while, so if some of you are commercial customers and have been commercial customers for a while, we might have exchanged some emails. And then I had an interest in WebKit fairly early on, so eventually I moved on to the development team, and it was a fairly logical choice to start hacking on Qt WebKit. And so yeah, for the past two years or so, as Millian said, I've been hacking on Qt WebKit. I was giving a introductory talk about Qt WebKit 2 years ago in Munich. And yeah, the last few months I've been busy with this new project that we started to talk about a bit in public, that we call Qt WebEngine, and we're now confident that this is the direction. So that's why we have this talk at Dev Days. I really enjoy open source software, which was the reason for me for joining Nokia, but when I applied, it was still Trolltech. And I'm very happy with the fact that we can hack on open source technologies on a daily basis for work. This is great. And as a side note, I really like to cook, and I enjoy climbing, ice climbing, all sorts of rock climbing. So this is why I don't hack too much on weekends when the weather is good. So now that it's really about to rain a lot in Norway, maybe I'm going to be a bit more productive. So a quick word on what this is all about and what it should be all about. I really want, when I was sitting down to prepare this talk, I didn't really know what you want me to talk about. So I figured you guys would probably have lots of questions, because probably this is the only time where I can say that nobody really has a clue what Qt Web Engine is all about this year at Dev Days. But I'm hoping by next year nobody can come up with that. So I'm hoping by next year you're all very familiar with it and you love it. What type of questions do I expect? I'll cover, but basically I'm guessing you already have a lot, and I'm gonna try to cover as much as I can, and in the end I'll take questions, and you'll probably have lots of questions that I haven't foreseen. So I also have my own agenda. I'm hacking on this for the last few months. We really gained a lot of confidence in the project, and we really think that it can be the way forward. But I know from experience that we had doubts at the beginning. I had doubts at the beginning, and the rest of the team, and we really had to convince ourselves by hacking and getting familiar with this. And I want to transfer this confidence to you guys that this is the right move for Qt. And I also want to whet your appetite for this project, and I want you to be curious. We really want to see some feedback. We want to see contributions. We want a really healthy project. So yeah, I'm gonna try to transmit that. So how is that gonna unfold? I can't really talk about Qt Web Engine without talking about where we come from. So there will be a bit of a historical introduction going over WebKit and the recent events, and why we are where we are today. Then I'll go over the how and where and everything about how the pieces fit together in Qt WebEngine, how we're building it, and so you have an idea how it works. And then I'll talk a bit briefly about roadmap and migration, because I'm pretty sure this is a bit of a concern for some of you, and also timelines, which is also a best effort type of thing. So let's start with WebKit. So we've had this. I'm not going to go over the historical part with KHTML. We'll just start with WebKit, and more specifically Qt WebKit. So we've had Qt WebKit as an API offering since Qt 4.4, and that's quite a while, I realize by now, and it's really grown to be a very broad API. It's very successful. It's been used successfully in the industry for lots of various projects. It's also been used in lots of open source projects. Very varied, not only browsers and things like this, but also things like Phantom.js, which Millian contributed to, and which was started by a former coworker of mine. And it's super successful even with people who don't do C++, who don't even know what Qt is. So I think we can say that Qt WebKit has been a very successful thing. We've been working upstream the whole time, and Alan will have more on this in the next talk in the same room. But I think also as such, WebKit was a very, very successful project as a whole, and it was one of those examples of lots of different commercial entities contributing together to the same open source project. So I know for me that was very inspiring. I know it inspired also the contribution model that we have now in Qt. It was one of the projects that was looked at, and some parts that seem to work were picked from there. So I think we can safely say that WebKit is something that we can consider a success. I'll have a quick picture that I want you all to keep about WebKit, is that WebKit is just like this sandwich. And what I mean by that is that in terms of how it's built and how it's architectured, there is not one WebKit. WebKit has, so it would be the filling in this sandwich, would be the part that we share with all the ports. And it's a set of interfaces that are fairly abstract. And so that means for us, in the example of Qt WebKit, we would have our API layer on top, but there's also another slice of the sandwich, which is a platform layer. And that's where we had a lot of plumbing to do to make all that stuff work fine together. And this is something to keep in mind. All those features, they never came for free. We always had some plumbing to do at the bottom, and at the same time we wanted to develop APIs on top. So with this sandwich, where did we take it? We had in Qt 4, in the Qt 4 times, only one Qt WebKit API that was a whole module, and it was WebKit, what we now call in Qt 5 Qt WebKit widgets. So it was widgets based, and it was a single process design with it's what we now call WebKit 1. We refer to it as WebKit 1, which is a bit of a silly name, but it's just as opposed to WebKit 2, which was presented introduced by Apple, and the idea was to have a split process design. So this split process design was made popular by Google when they introduced Google Chrome, and it's been a very popular feature, and there was a lot of demand for it. And we also saw the benefits of having a split process architecture, not only for stability, but also to get a really smooth user experience and user interface. And this is something I think we want to have in Qt. And so so that's how WebKit 2 came up. So it was, or it still is, baked right into the framework. And so I have a little diagram to explain what I mean by that. So this would be WebKit 1. You have the application using the WebKit layer as an API layer. And WebKit uses internally web core, JavaScript core as its JS engine. And so all this is running in a single process. What was done with WebKit 2 looks a bit like that. It's transparent for the application developer that there is a split process. All the IPC, everything is done behind the scenes. And so you can see that you have the API boundary stays between the application and WebKit, and it's still in the same process. So it's fairly easy to comprehend, easy to use, but you have to remember that behind the scenes, there's actually a lot of things happening at this process boundary. And this is something, it means a lot of code to maintain, it means some complexity, and it means also some constraints. And so just for reference, this is the Chromium design. This is one of the reasons why it was not trivial to adopt that in WebKit. And you can see here that in terms of API, the WebKit API boundary is on the other side of the process boundary. So it's not easy to adopt, and it's also something that is important for later for what we're doing now with QtWebEngine. So yeah, and the last point that I had was about the Nokia N9. When I joined the team, they were really busy finishing up and putting the last touches on the browser for the N9, and so I don't know if you guys are all familiar with the Nokia N9. If you've been coming to Dev Days for a few years, you probably heard about it a whole bunch. And yeah, and it was my great pleasure to join a team where just a small bunch of guys managed to pull off the browser for this phone, and it is to date officially the only browser that shipped WebKit 2 on a mobile device. So very well done to them. And I remember hearing a lot about how Qt WebKit, wow, we were super advanced on WebKit 2 and we already had everything in place. So let's just put things straight here. Yeah.
I have one question here. What's the difference between... Hi, just a question. What's the difference between using, for example, two Q applications separately, having all their own Q WebKit widgets, Q WebViews running on their own process, because Q applications are all running on their own process, and using WebKit 2 on a single application? I mean, using two different Q applications, were you having also separation of processes within WebKit running on the system if you were using two Q applications separately, or were they sharing in common?
Not sure I fully understand the question, but Alan, do you have a clue? Yeah.
I can answer that.
WebKit only has one process for all of the pages they open, so you would still have one, no matter how many applications you were running, many pages, you would have one web process.
Even on WebKit Q applications?
Yeah, you would just have like multiple applications on top, but they would have the same
With
underlying
WebKit 2
thing,
or
which
with
also
WebKit
means
1?
that they can share things like forms and frames, but it's different talk.
Yeah. All right. Thanks. Yeah. So a quick timeline. So Apple announced WebKit 2 in April 2010. Invited everybody to contribute and participate and appropriate. So that was very nice. In July 2011, they shipped Safari on desktop with WebKit 2. And in the same year, the N9 shipped with also a WebKit 2 based browser. And we only shipped WebKit 2 as an API for Qt developers with 5.0. So it took another solid year to come up with a fairly minimal API. The truth is that the work that was done for the N9 browser was was done in a branch and was really hard to reuse actually. So a lot of it had to be rewritten, and yeah, it's been a fairly tough time. So another thing, if you match this timeline to what happened in recent years, we've been going through a lot of change within Nokia, and then eventually got acquired by Digia, and that means not everybody transferred. And also there was, so I'm just gonna give a bit of credit to all the guys that were contributing to Qt WebKit. We had a big team of folks in Brazil with INDT, a Nokia Institute of Technology, and they were helping out quite a lot. And we also had some. We also had a deal with, as part of Nokia, with the University of Szeged, where we had some folks helping out, and a lot of that manpower went away when we transferred. We still had a bunch of guys helping out in the University of Szeged, but in Hungary. But that was becoming pretty tough. Just keeping things together, trying to play catch up. Maintenance was a bit of a burden, and we were having a really hard time developing more APIs. So that was not necessarily fun for us, and we understand that it might not have been tremendously exciting from the outside. So what happened next? In April, as you can see here, the date from the blog post, 3rd of April, Google decided to part ways with the WebKit project. And personally, I heard about it just a few hours before they announced it, so that really came as a surprise. It didn't really leak internally. It just came out of nowhere. Well, not exactly out of nowhere, but yeah, that was very sudden. And so for us, what did it mean? There were lots of implications. Google has been, since they joined the project, a major contributor. They've been really pushing WebKit in lots of ways. So their departure was not necessarily good news for us. Also because of the cross-platform aspect. They were really the only ones that had a cross-platform interest, with other WebKit ports being a bit more tied to specific platforms. And so that was not necessarily looking very, very good for us. And then, yeah, then as I said, we also had to think about our developer story, because API-wise, this is really what we want to do. We want to make things nice to use. We want to develop nice APIs and give power to the users of Qt APIs. And this is something where we were struggling to find the time to do so. So what we did is we sat down and started looking at what was there in Chromium and what we could use. It was not exactly big news that we would want to reuse parts of other parts than just Qt. We had already considered looking into using Skia in the past, and we knew that, well, there was potentially some benefits in looking into that. So we prototyped a bit, had the first blog post where we just mentioned, hey, this is what we did. What do you think? It was fairly well received. So we kept prototyping a bit more, and we were gaining more and more confidence as we were doing so. And yeah, now we really think that this is the way forward. So a few words on how it's done. So first of all, we never really mention Blink when we communicate publicly about what we're doing with Qt WebEngine. We tend to talk a bit more about Chromium, and so I'll disambiguate that right away. We're not, Blink as such is really hard to embed. It's quite an abstract platform. There's not much of an entry point, and it doesn't really make sense to try and just use Blink. So what we're building on top of is the content API. It's
Can you explain kind of the whole architecture and where this content
yeah.
API is to happen?
Sorry, but if you
yeah, this is coming. So in the slides to come. So so there's this thing in Chromium called the Content API. It's it's a semi-stable API that exists past the process split that we've seen. So this is really good for us because that means we can offer a split process design by building on top of that. It encapsulates a bit more than just Blink, and that means also by building at that level, all the platform layer is below, and we really don't want to get back into that business of the platform support. So this is something where the sensible approach that now the Google folks are taking is there are other people interested in this, and we want to remain toolkit agnostic at the platform adaptation level. So we might contribute there, but it's not going to be Qt specific. This means for users that you can expect features to perform in the same way and to behave in the same way, and all those behavior-specific bugs and port-specific bugs, hopefully we should be able to get rid of, or at least that won't be a problem at that level. So let's just have a quick demo of what I meant by web-exposed features. This, by the way, is running in the demo browser. Some of you might be familiar. So, but it's running QtWebEngine. It's the same demo browser application that we had in Qt WebKit since the Qt 4 days, with minor modifications and missing features, but yeah, running Qt WebEngine. So this is a pretty cool demo that I like. Right now we don't really have, we're not yet at the level of performance for WebGL where we want to be. This is just software, but this is what we got out of the box when we started prototyping. And this was one of the really good surprises that we had, like all those features that we had been struggling to get working, and they just started working out of the box. So another one that I wanted to show was WebRTC that I got running yesterday. I didn't really expect it to work, but considering the network is so bad, I'm just going to show the get user media part. So WebRTC stands for real-time communication. Let's see if that wants to load. Please. Yay. So I tell it to use my camera. It's quickly hacked together, so it just allows everything without me acting. Yeah, this is using my webcam. It's all HTML, and it's a funny demo that does weird effects like a photo booth type of thing. And yeah, it just works with really minimal effort. I got the idea on Friday that, hey, maybe I should demo WebRTC, but we didn't have it working in Qt WebEngine. But since Lars mentioned it at the keynote, and I figured, well, it would be really good to back that with solid evidence. So with a fairly minimal amount of effort and a little bit of plumbing, since most of it is already done, we can just, oh, this is disturbing. We can just reuse that. So what I really wanted to show was this thing that a bunch of former coworkers have been working on, Pierre.in. It's using WebRTC to do video conferencing in the browser, and it's really cool. So I invite you to test it out. But yeah, the idea is that we can support those features. Another thing that we had working out of the box, and maybe network permitting is going to work, is YouTube videos. They started working. So, well, let's not hold our breath. Okay, yeah, that was the Qt 5 video. I hope you guys have seen it. If not, I invite you to go on YouTube and take a look. That was the release thing, and it's pretty fun. All right, so let's see how it's pieced together. This is really just to give you a quick idea where we're going. So we took the Chromium Content API, which is that means we stripped away all the application layers, and there's quite a lot there. So we're just building that together. We use the same build system that Chromium is using, but it's nicely wrapped with QMake, and we had to re-implement a bunch of the interfaces from that content API that usually the browser would re-implement to make a really thin private API for ourselves, on top of which we can build a widget C++ library. So Lars already mentioned it in his in the keynote. The goal of the widgets library is really to help with migration. We don't want to just build a completely new API. Also because we know that building a good API is hard, and this Qt WebKit widgets API has already proven that, well, it's pretty good. So instead of building everything again from scratch, let's just reuse what makes sense and try to get as much as possible covered to ease the migration path. Yes.
Okay, please tell me if this goes too far, but Chromium expects all these delegates set up like during application startup. You have the browser context and all that. Do you?
Yeah, so this is stuff that we're re-implementing.
And are you able to sort of do that on the fly when you need to instantiate your first Qt WebEngine, or does that tie? So if I write a Qt application, does that have to go into my normal application startup sequence?
So yeah, we have. Again, I'm not sure if this will answer your question, but I'm going to try. We have a bit of an integration with the Chromium event loop and our Qt event loop, and then we re-implement some of the parts that are needed for like browser context and those things, as part of our private API layer. And then when you use, so it's going to happen when you start instantiating a web view or something like this, right?
You're really able to delay all that initialization to the point.
Yeah, I think I see what you mean. Yeah, the initialization is a bit tricky because some things are bubbling back up in a way, but as you can see, it's working. So yeah, we have all those problems sort of figured out. That was the interesting part really when we started prototyping, because we started with the content shell, and then things were the wrong way around. And then we had to like rip out the content shell, start re-implementing our own web contents delegate. So I'm afraid this is going to get really messy for everybody. But yeah, we can talk about it later if you want. But basically by now, yeah, it's working quite nicely. I think we have overcome those little design issues, and we're fairly confident that this works. It works with the Qt Quick plugin. It works with the widget library. So there's no reason why it shouldn't work for everybody. So yeah, a widgets library, not really reinventing the wheel there, trying to bring it up to speed as quickly as possible. This is not exactly, widgets are not exactly the direction where Qt is pushing a lot in terms of technology. So we really see this as a migration path. We want to make it work really nicely, and as you can see, this is all using widgets. So yeah, that's really an important part of the story. And then we're working on a Qt Quick plugin. So I have some slides about those things actually. Almost forgot. So the widgets library, same thing as what you have in Qt WebKit widgets. I'll get back to that a bit later. There will be some missing features. We mentioned it, but I'm gonna mention it again. Things like Qt Web Element, we're not sure we're gonna bring back, and then with some adjustments. One of those adjustments is that the Qt Web Frame, if you're familiar with the Qt WebKit widgets API, the Qt Web Frame is not really relevant anymore because we don't have access with that content API to the subframes. So what we did is we're folding it back into the QWeb page. So it's now all going to be in, all the sensible parts of that API are going to be in QWebEngine page. It's a bunch of class renames like this so that it doesn't clash. And also we have to do some adjustments on APIs like evaluate JavaScript that relied on the synchronous nature of WebKit 1. Because now we're working with something that is by essence very asynchronous, we'll have to come up with slightly different design for those things. So this is a work in progress. I'm also going to demo it a bit later. Yeah.
Will you implement also the injection of key objects inside the DOM? That's something that...
Yeah, this is another thing that was mentioned by Lars, and I was talking to Milian about that just before the talk. The JavaScript QObject bridge is something that we didn't start investigating yet, so we don't plan on bringing it right away. We know that it's very popular and that a lot of people rely on this. We don't have a really good story there yet. We don't have a solution. There are existing solutions. Milian has been working quite a bit on picking up QWeb channel, which was a solution that Noam came up with originally for WebKit 2 to do the same type of hybrid things. And this is, I guess we could come up with an approach that would be somewhere in between. I'm hoping to see lots of patches coming in from Milian. But yeah, definitely, we were aware of it. We have a lot of other things on our plate, so we'll see when it comes. And then the Qt Quick plugin is something that we're building a bit more from the ground up. We have a very basic minimal API in WebKit 2 that was for Qt Quick. That in terms of public API, we can really keep it. There's no reason why we would break it. But there are lots of things where we can do things differently. And one of them is the scene graph integration. We're seeing, so one of my coworkers, Jocelyn, was prototyping that, and also Zeno in Oslo. They've been working on this scene graph integration lately, and they got some really good results. It's lining up very nicely, and it's looking very promising. So we're pretty sure we'll have that for the technology preview. And I think this is one of the really great selling points that we'll have with this. I also mentioned here a soft dependency on Qt Quick controls for things like UI delegation, context menus, color pickers, dialogues. In WebKit 2, we didn't quite have a really good story, and for people wanting to make a browser or anything, it was quite painful. We've been going back and forth on this, and the approach that we're planning on taking with QtWebEngine is to ship a private QML module that will have all the default controls, and they will rely on Qt Quick controls. But for people doing platforms that don't want to ship controls for some reason, I'm not judging, but yeah, sometimes you already have your own, you don't want to change everything, then we're still going to keep it a possibility that instead of shipping our bundled controls thing, you can ship your own. So UI delegation can be done. It's not really going to be public API for everybody, I think. It doesn't make sense in most cases. Microphone.
Chrome has this feature for multiple pages in separate processes. They will go to the scene graph also if there are multiple pages, or can the QtWebEngine instance have only one web page?
I'm not sure what we're talking about. Is it about the scene graph integration?
Yes.
Yes. So what we're doing is, I can get into a bit of details here. It's just in terms of what we get out of the Chromium content API. We can get the textures and the geometries from there and put them directly into our scene graph. Their current design direction and our current scene graph design seem to be playing very nicely together. So this is something that we're very excited about because we can just throw that directly into there and get really good CSS, hardware accelerated CSS animations and things like WebGL WebGL is not a good example, but all the hardware acceleration there can be done really nicely. I'm not sure if that answers your question.
Well, I think to ask differently that basically if I instantiate the Qt WebEngine and there are multiple pages open, I can write a Qt quick control that move from page 1 to page 2, or I can browse the Chromium page stack.
What you get with this Qt Quick API is you have a WebView API, so you can instantiate several and load different pages. And then they're just scene graph items in our scene graph in Qt Quick. But then the way they're rendered is performing really well because of the design direction that Chromium is taking and the way we can make those two talk together. So this is on the Qt Quick front, we're really making an effort to get good performance and a very tight integration.
All fine. I have to see and try. All fine.
Yeah. We're waiting for your feedback.
So maybe on the same topic,
yeah.
Am I understanding you correctly? The render process produces output that is then IPC'd to the render view host, and you can integrate that into your scene graph and basically ship it to OpenGL from there?
So I've not been super involved on that, but the idea is that, well, maybe we can talk about it later, but the idea is that it's pretty complex actually. There's a GPU process, there's a lot happening with Chromium, and the idea is basically our UI process, our scene graph, is just getting the right stuff from there. So we can just shove it in. Yeah, the way it's done is still heavily work in progress, but there has been some really nice progress lately. I haven't seen it running because I was on vacation 2 weeks ago, but apparently they started having stuff running on the screen. Just before I left, we were getting the geometries and everything animated really smoothly, but the textures were still a bit tricky. Yeah, maybe let's take the questions in the end because there's still a bit and it might answer some questions. So, quick word on the roadmap. We're planning a tech preview by the end of the year. Lars mentioned November in his keynote. I'm not sure we're committed to that, but yeah, November is clearly the target. It might be beginning of December if we slip. We're not exactly tied to the 5.2 release. We're going to be requiring 5.2 most likely because of the scene graph integration that we've just been discussing. It's intended to be a preview of the API. It's really so that you guys can test it out, play around. It's by no means going to be thorough, or like it's not going to be the complete API that we want to ship with the first release. And yeah, what we want is just demonstrate the technology. It's a technology preview. Show what we have, and really give an idea of the direction. So in terms of platforms, we're also working on a best effort basis. This is not our top priority right now, and because of the way it's designed, porting shouldn't really be our biggest problem. We currently work on Linux and Mac, so you can expect those to be working among the team. And then we're investigating boot to Qt on top of the Android base layer, because this is something where we see obviously a big market and a big interest. So this is right now where we're prototyping. I heard yesterday that it is building now. So the question is it going to be running anytime soon? And then how well it's going to be running. But yeah, this is work in progress, and I think this is fair enough. We can commit to that for a tech preview.
What about Windows?
And so what about Windows? We're planning a first release for 5.3, so this will add Windows, and it will be a bit broader in terms of scope on embedded. For mobile platforms, because we now have this awesome mobile offering, what Lars mentioned and what is our take on this at the moment is that, well, first of all, on iOS we can't ship a web engine anyway, so it would already be a bit uneven. And our take on this is that a web engine doesn't necessarily make sense on mobile, so we're really gonna take another approach there and possibly wrap the existing native API with a common subset as the public Qt API. So what we're planning on shipping with this first release will be the WebKit 1 friendly widgets API, as close as possible, minimal changes. I'm gonna demo that in a minute if I still have a few minutes left. And our first take on this Qt Quick API, which will also grow over time.
So Android is not in this Linux. Android and Linux is considered.
So yeah,
Android and Linux, they are considered different.
Yeah, so our Boot to Qt offering, we have two flavors. We have the Android base layer one, which is very convenient for some people. Yeah, I invite you to go to the booth and talk to.
Yeah, I have
the
one
Boot to
other
Qt people.
person there.
Yeah, so we make a distinction on the Android base layer Boot to Qt and the vanilla embedded Linux Boot to Qt offering, because it does actually make a difference. And the reason why we're investigating right now the Android base layer one is that we reckon it might be a bit trickier because it's Android without really being Android, and Chromium for Android is a very different beast on its own. So there are interesting challenges. That's why we're looking into it. So a quick word on migration, because this is really something we want everybody to start having in mind. I'm talking about three different maybe user groups. So for people who adopted WebKit 2, if you were sticking to the public API, which was really minimal, the migration should be a breeze, and I think you should start looking into it right away with the technology preview, even if you want to check it out now and start following where we're heading. And we're really happy to get feedback. So WebKit 2 early adopters, please start looking into it right away. This is really the quickest migration, we hope. Then for simple widgets-based app, I was intending on showing something quickly. Let's see how quickly we can do that. So this is Fancy Browser. The same Fancy Browser we've had in Qt WebKit for a few releases now, in Qt 4 something, Qt 4.6 maybe was it released. It demonstrates basically the use of evaluate JavaScript. And since I've been toying around just before I started preparing this presentation, I've been toying around with how we can come up with a new approach for evaluate JavaScript. Yeah, the natural thing to do would be to port this one. So the really quick thing is that, well, we're not going to rely on Qt Network right now, because we have also remember the sandwich. The network stack is not exactly in our hands anymore, so we don't have a solution there yet. Then the module is called Qt WebEngine widgets now, so that's fairly easy. And then, well, the proxy, we'll have to trust that our current Chromium stack is picking up the right proxy settings. Fortunately, I'm not using any. And then what I wanted to show is that, well, it's fairly simple. So we're going to replace QWeb page by QWebEngine page. And whoop. Actually, replace all seems safe enough. And then there are a few other things. Let's keep going over this code. We have a QWeb frame here. So hey, this is super simple. It just doesn't exist anymore. So it's just going to be a QWebEngine page. Yeah. Actually, view source, it probably won't work anyway. Yeah, and then we really have this. So every time there's this evaluate JavaScript, it's now not on the page, but you call it on the frame. So we might expose a way to evaluate JavaScript on a specific subframe with via the XPath. It's really the only case where it makes sense. API is still a building site, so yeah, we're taking feedback on this. So let's see if we can replace this with something sensible everywhere. Nope. Oh, damn. So basically what we want is just to remove the main frame. And yeah, that looks safe enough. Yeah. I'm gonna remove it in a bunch of places. Yeah. Do I have... So you can see on screen that it's actually, it's a bit cut out. It's invoking Ninja behind the scenes. That's one of the funky aspects of our current build system. It's very hybrid. It's quite nice to use, actually. Okay, we're gonna get some errors. Oh yeah, I didn't even touch the header file. That's probably a bad idea. We have things here called QWebView. That's probably not going to be right. We have a QWebEngine view now. I should probably adjust the for declaration as well. And actually, are we running out of time? I probably have a QWebView in there. Yeah, so we took a lot of questions, so whoop. Let's make it easier to read. 60 here. QWebEngine view, that should be better. Let's see if... to HTML reference from view source. Yeah, this is probably just not going to work, so let's trim it down to HTML. This part is not implemented. Let's just comment it out. Well, let's just remove it. Not so familiar. Nice keyboard. Here. My fat fingers. Yeah, my creator setup is a bit messed up, so that ruins the nicety of doing everything in nice IDE. Okay, examples, widgets. So we have it somewhere in there now. Fancy browser, and oh yeah, some peculiar thing with our build system at the moment. So what fancy browser does is things like this. Evaluate JavaScript, and it just spins the images upside down and things like this. And this is already quite powerful in itself. And this is something we can revive quite easily. And as you can see, the migration for applications relying on all the fairly basic feature set should be quite a breeze. We're hoping that people won't spend more than a day migrating their code base. So for all those simple use cases, yeah, we're probably going to have a great story right away from 5.3. People doing heavy, complex hybrid applications, you probably want to assess how much you require and what options are there. QWeb channel is also an option if you want to migrate right away with 5.3. It's not tied to WebKit at all. Otherwise, we're definitely going to try to come up with a good solution for a bridge. So let's remove some of this. Yeah, let's wrap this up. So I said in the beginning, I want you all to feel curious about it, and I'm hoping everybody can help with this. I really wish all of you are relying on Qt WebKit at the moment, or those of you who are interested in making new applications where you want to embed web content or do things with a web engine in general, are going to start trying with the tech preview right away and give us some feedback, because this is really something that's valuable for us. We're working on something, but we might not foresee everything, and if we're getting it wrong, please tell us as early as possible. Then one thing I want to emphasize is that we're now working under the Qt project umbrella. So Qt WebEngine is at the moment in Garrett in Qt Labs. We'll hopefully move on to being a proper module with 5.3 when we have a release. And this is something, to me, it has great value because contribution to WebKit has been known to be tedious for a lot of people, and it's been discouraging at times for people. And we know that we already now in the Qt project have a very healthy contributor base, and it's a very nice project. So we're really happy that we can piggyback on that, and people who are already contributing to Qt can just contribute to Qt WebEngine and not have to worry about anything. So yeah, we're hoping to see some patches, and yeah, if you want to get in touch, we're hanging out on Qt WebEngine on Freenode, and all sort of documentation that we have, we try to put on the Qt project wiki. So Qt WebEngine, not exactly a surprise. Yeah, so we'll try to document more. There's not that much at the moment. If you feel that some things are not documented and some things are missing, feel free to edit it. It's a wiki. And that's all I have. That's all, folks. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pierre. Are there any questions?
So, two quick questions. One is, if I wanted to get started with a Qt Quick application, is there a tutorial that I can just follow and get up and running? And the other would be, is there something like a mailing list or so where I can follow what you guys are doing and what you're working on? Your blog posts are very nice, but they're very rare.
So let's reverse the order. Mailing list, it's happening. Zeno is on top of that. We discussed it last week, but I don't think we have one right now. So just, yeah, we'll keep you posted. Keep looking maybe on the wiki. I think this is the first place we'll announce it. Also, we want to, before the tech preview, we want to have a component in Jira in the bug tracker. And then the first question was how to get started. Right now, so we have the README in the repo, and everything we have is really in our repository. So to get started with Qt Quick, I would say take a look at the Qt Quick example that we have. We called it Qt Quick Nano Browser. It's a slight reference to the mini browser we had in the WebKit 2 days. So it's even, well, when we started, it was even more featureless than that. So nano. But yeah, it's very easy to get started. It's just import Qt WebEngine 1.0, and then the API is work in progress. So so yeah, we're gonna work on documenting that.
I was more interested in this.
Yeah.
I was more interested in the steps. What do I have to do to be able to write import QWebEngine 1.0?
So the part where it's about building is really we keep it up to date in the README that's with the repo. So if you just clone it, then we have we made a flattened snapshot of Chromium so that you don't have to clone the whole of Chromium if you don't plan on contributing anything upstream. And this is really quick to clone from also from Gitorious. And yeah, it really clones in minutes, in even seconds if you have a good network connection. And then yeah, you just need to run qmake make, and you can get started.
Okay, if I understand it right, the Qt WebKit port has a Qt port, so it is a portability layer is Qt. Is it
Yeah,
right? So now it's a difference that now the portability layer is Chromium, whatever it has. This is Ozone, what it's called, I don't know. And so we are dependent now on what Chromium delivers as platform. Is that right? Formerly, the Qt WebKit 1 runs on everything Qt runs on.
So that's the idea,
Yeah.
but in practice, it's not quite the case. We still had to work. It needs WebKit running there, and it needs us making sure that WebKit or Qt WebKit runs there. Where we're heading now is being on top in terms of the API layer, because that's what makes sense, integrating really tightly with what we have in Qt to allow people to put web content in their app. And then the layer below, the platform layer, is really something we want to share with everybody. And as Chromium is pushing to be a successful open source project, what we see happening now and what we hope is really going to happen is that the platform layer really belongs to everybody, and we want to share it. We don't want to have our Qt specific one that will have Qt specific bugs in there. So right now, yeah, we're pretty much tied to the platforms that Chromium supports. The ongoing work, you can look things up a bit online. The ongoing work, there's something called Ozone, where they're really looking at how they do the platform abstraction. And it's looking pretty promising. So we really think that the porting, the platform aspect, the porting aspect is something that should be Qt agnostic at this point.
Yeah. Okay. The problem is there is no plans for Windows Embedded Compact probably. That is something we rely on, and which also work for 4.8. It works good. 5.0 WebKit work does not work on Windows CE because of the cross-process communication, which is not implemented there. Okay, so we don't have no web engine anymore. Then we just have to rely on the community project. Is that ongoing, or will that follow in the following discussion with the WebKit how it continues? There's I think there's a WebKit project for 4.8 to continue in. Yeah.
Qt WebKit 2.3. You can definitely talk to that man over there, Alan.
Okay.
The man behind Qt WebKit 2.3, really. Yeah, if you are tied to Qt WebKit, I really invite you to come back to this room after the talk. There will be a lot more info about where Qt WebKit is headed.
Yeah, one more question probably only. Is it okay if I pick someone new? You already had some questions. Sorry.
So do you have any workarounds for the missing Qt WebKit bridge to send signals into Web Engine?
We realized that it is very popular, even more popular than we originally thought. So maybe we start looking into this before we have a release, but I really don't want to commit to anything there because it's a fairly big undertaking. The workaround that I can now just come up with is to start looking into Qt Web Channel, because this is so it's using WebSockets, and it's really it gives you to a certain extent some of the features that you get with the QObject bridge. and it's not WebKit specific at all. So you can just run it with any browser really.
So yeah, 1 minute left. Is any quick question left?
There was one here, there was one there. Lots.
Kind of the HTML5 compatibility will be equal to Chromium, so that if we run the tests that people run for Chromium, we will get the same result from this component. Is this the promise we can give?
Yes, this is the promise we want to give. This is the reason why we're doing this. This is really the end goal. As I was trying to demonstrate with WebRTC, for us it's a whole different story in terms of how much we can bring in very little time. So new features coming in Chromium, we're hoping we can expose in a sensible manner as quickly as possible so that you can get those things. And the web exposed features, the things that don't require any public API, even though there is often a need to integrate with the application. But even then, we can really deliver things quickly, and we hope to be on par with exactly with what the latest Chromium ships at all times.
Thank you all. I'm sorry to interrupt here, but please, thanks, Pierre.
Thanks. Feel free to additional questions. Feel free to send me an email, or you can also catch me now at the coffee break.
Exactly.
I'll be at the booth.
And we'll see each other again in half an hour to look at Qt WebKit.